Today we have a guest I'm super excited about, very special guest. He's kind of done it all. He's a fitness guru, two-time Men's Health cover star, entrepreneur, and founder of High Performance Lifestyle Trainer. And I think more important than all that, he's a proud husband and father of two. And everybody, please welcome Brian Mazza out of New York. Brian, thank you so much for taking the time to join me on an episode of Restart.
Thank you for having me, and congratulations launching this. This seems like it's going to be great.
Yeah, it's an exciting platform, and the best part about it is, honestly, I think through every tutorial and every episode, someone can walk away and take some takeaways and really implement them into their life. So it's exciting. But before we get into your story, where you've gone, where you've been, and where you're going to go, how's it? I know you're in Westchester and you're dealing with quarantine, and on top of it, it's my understanding, your freaking house burned down 8 weeks ago. So how's everything going at home?
You know, it's 8 weeks ago was pretty scary, and thank God everyone survived and everyone was okay. But we lost our home to a fire that happened through our fireplace, and just like you don't suspect or expect anything like that to ever happen to you. You always hear stories about it, or you see it on the news, and you just kind of brush it off, or wow, I wish that never happens to me. And then boom, it happens. And it's really important how you prepare yourself to handle these things in everyday life prior to these unforeseen circumstances, like what's going on right now with COVID-19 and how crazy that has affected and impacted the whole globe. If you live your life a certain way and you train a certain way and you prepare yourself to handle situations that come at you that normally don't, you can really overcome them and really put your best foot forward every single day when it's not as motivating as possible or when you're down in the dumps. But that's just got to keep it moving. You really just have to keep it moving, and you have to take the punches. And life is not what happens to you, it's how you react to it. And I think that's a really huge lesson for anyone listening to this. Mike Tyson always said it best: you always have a plan until you get punched right in the face. And I think a lot of people don't understand or haven't been in certain situations where the adversity is really overwhelming or so paramount that it can totally just crush you. I wake up every morning very thankful and very blessed. And I've always had that attitude. I have my two boys and my wife and my animals, and my parents are still alive. My brother and sister are still alive. So for me, I'm a very wealthy man in that sense.
That's amazing. And I think one thing you hit on that we'll touch more about is change really is the only constant today, and it only will be the constant. And change could do one or two things. It could deter you from accomplishing your goals and achieving everything that you envision, or it could derail you and throw you into a spiral that is uncontrollable. And taking control of those situations is massive. So I want to get it. I know you have a mantra: nothing changes if nothing changes. I want to get into that, but before we do, the purpose of today is really to understand, what made Brian, some of the hardships you've endured, how you've come in the direction you have, and things you've done, in your career and then outside of your career, because success is defined differently by everyone. So if we could take kind of a stroll down memory lane here and go back to your days at University of Rhode Island, your college soccer player, walk me through that time period, what you're studying, kind of what you envisioned your life to be, and what actually came out of it with your first job out of school.
So I grew up in Westchester, was a very, very strong soccer player, very competitive soccer player. I was just a young kid. I was 17 when I went to school. Yeah. We went to Europe in the beginning. We went to Belgium, Holland, and Germany and played. Then when we came back, it was just, I really wasn't happy playing soccer. I had the mentality that it was them against me, but I was the problem. I was the baby. I was the brat. I was the spoiled kid from Westchester who didn't want to work hard. And it led me to quit actually my senior year like an idiot. And it was the biggest regret I've ever made. I don't really live with that regret anymore. I live within that regret not to make any childish or stupid decisions like that anymore in anything that I do. And then I graduated school, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. My dad was a school teacher, an amazing school teacher. So I would substitute in between my junior and senior year on certain breaks to make some extra money. And I liked that. But by the time I graduated, I didn't have a degree to be a teacher or anything. So I couldn't become a teacher, but I had some family in the fashion industry. So I jumped right into the fashion industry, and it was basically just like a sales assistant. So logging numbers into Excel, doing all that stuff, making $28,000 a year. I moved into the city in New York City with a rent controlled apartment, and I started guest bartending. So I was doing that. And then my sister, who was a very prominent hair colorist, who actually was the hair colorist for Rachel Yucatel, Tiger Woods' mistress during the time, reached out to my sister and said, hey, I know you have a brother. Would he want to be a bottle runner at this nightclub in the Hamptons that I work at? And my sister signed me up. And that was the best thing my sister ever did. She didn't ask me. She just already signed me up. I was making great cash. It was awesome. And that's where I really got a sense of what it's like to own a business, what it's like to be around people spending a ton of cash, being around celebrities, models, and being in that nightlife world. And I just loved it. And I was just like, you know what? I'm going to be the yes guy. So you want iced coffee in the morning? I'll go get it for you. You want bagels in the morning? I'll go get it for you. You want to go work out? Let's go work out. You want to play a little football? Let's go play a little football. I felt like, wow, I finally had my calling. I understood what to do. It wasn't difficult. I could shine. So I just really ate it up and took full advantage of it. And then that led me to finding out who the owner of the nightclub was. And the nightclub, the owner was my old partner, who we created the Ainsworth together. So when I met the owner of the club, I said, what else do you do? What else do you have going on? He's like, oh, I got this bar, that bar, this bar, that bar in New York City. And I said, okay, well, listen, I just quit my other job. So I don't have a job. You have to hire me. He's like, what are you talking about? So I kind of like forced myself on him to hire me. And he saw how hard I was working all summer. And he saw that I was really putting in the effort and that I was, making a difference for him at the club. So he's like, okay, I got this other bar. We can try you out there, but you have to learn everything from busboy to bar back to everything. And I said, okay, whatever, I'm 21 years old. Of course I'll learn everything. But I also said, hey, I went to the University of Rhode Island. I have a very, very huge network. So if you want, I could probably help you at one of your bars and promote. And he said, okay, let me give you a shot. And like the first Friday night, I brought 250 people and we packed out the bar. And, any bar owner will love anyone who's 21 years old who could bring a crowd. The recession happened in 2008, which is kind of what's going on now, which is scary. And we said, wow, what are we going to do? We have this event space that we're operating in New York City. No one's doing corporate events right now. No one's spending money. Let's create something that we saw a huge void in it. We have a great Rolodex of people from the Hamptons spending a ton of money and who have a ton of money still. Let's create an upscale sports bar that no one has ever really created. And there was a huge void in the market. So when we did that, it really took off.
So we're talking about Brian, and so far we have this picture: hungry college athlete, takes some detours, parties, builds the relationship, and now creates one of the best bars in the United States of America. But one thing we haven't talked about is this is a guy who is a 2-time cover of Men's Health. So I think that technically we don't really typically associate bars and restaurants with fitness and men's health and athletics. So you have a high performance lifestyle trainer, right? So you're the founder of HPLT. You've been on Men's Health. So talk to me a little bit about that career. And did these two careers operate in silos? Was there ever crossover? How did you manage the two? So interested to hear about that.
Sure. So like I said, we spoke about, I've always been an athlete and I've always been semi-fit, right, outside of school. I was a very big party guy. So that was also my role within the company, is the creation of Sunday Fun Day, the creation of the 24 karat gold wings, the mac and cheeseburger, the parties, the craziness. And it got to a point where I was just like, I hated waking up with a hangover every day. Yeah. And I started taking fitness more seriously. And I was like, wow, those two don't mix. Right? Mm-hmm. They just don't. There's no crossover. You're going to have to, something's going to have to give there. So I took the route of taking more fitness seriously, but utilizing everybody I met in the fitness industry to then cross them over for dinner reservations, cross them over for corporate events. So I was able to then tap into a whole nother bucket of people that still enjoyed drinking, still enjoyed going out. Then once I landed the Men's Health cover, that's when opportunities really started to open up for me. And I was working with major brands, having the access to a lot of different things that I never had access to in that world. And then as they were kind of parallel, as the careers were still hustling, bustling, the fitness industry really started to take off for me. And that's where I found myself happier. So I made a decision 5 years ago to stop drinking. So I recently just created High Performance Lifestyle Training. It's an amazing summit that we travel around the world. Right now we don't, but we travel around the world and put on a 3-day summit where we have some of the best speakers and fitness people in the world and really get everyone with their mind and body connection aligned. And we really allow everybody to understand that living in an uncomfortable state is the only way to grow. And we put them through certain exercises and certain fitness activations. Previous one we just did in Los Angeles, which was our best one yet. We had Navy SEALs and decorated U.S. Marines come and put us through a crazy workout on the beach and in the water in California. And it's really just shocks the mind, the body, and the soul to understand that what you're doing, you're probably not living up to your full potential, even though you think you're a high performer. There's a whole nother layer of life that you haven't even scraped. And we allow people to get a glimpse of that in 3 days. And hopefully they get back on track. I mean, our return rate is already 55% of people that keep coming back to each retreat and summit. Our community is growing every single day, which is great. You know, we're going globally and traveling in October, hopefully going to the Middle East for a huge activation. So it's growing, and people are catching on to it because they're understanding in this day and age more than ever, the mind, body, and soul connection, being healthy is the most paramount thing for people in order to be the best they possibly could be.
Well, Brian, so where can, obviously you've told a lot. I think people have learned a lot from your stories. Where can people find you?
Find me on Instagram at Brian Mazza. That's probably the best and most efficient way right now. I'm always on my Instagram, so just check me out.
Brian, thank you so much for joining us. This was a pleasure. It really was a pleasure. Bro. All right, take care, man.